the bestest leftist. As someone who has been a paid sub for the show and TYT for more than 5 years and watching both almost daily for more than 10 years, I implore you to stop commenting on the selectively clipped videos that circle leftist Twitter. TYT has some bad takes, but they and the show are ideologically aligned on 98% of the issues. No. They are not doing a rightward shift. They are solidly progressive and on the left. TYT does a ton of shit.
I'm pretty sure Cenk sent in this IM, by the way.
Yeah.
To get people involved. Are you actually like IMing to get us started talking about this?
It's also just not true. I'm sorry. Like, you know, I don't really watch their show anymore. I find a lot of the yelling all the time a little bit difficult. But like, I mean, the idea that they're not doing a rightward shift is just not true.
I believe one of them explicitly said that they were to the right of Democrats on the border, and in addition to all the crime stuff. So yeah, there's a disagreement. There are disagreements here, and we have to address them, and we try to do so as adults.
And we're not, you know, I don't think certainly we have not spent time just simply like sort of like generally attacking TYT.
No, they leave that to
those
us. Bad
takes that you talk about, we are addressing when they come. So we probably skip, you know, I don't know,
dozens,
70% of them, frankly.
I don't like talking about it, but I also feel like at the same time, just because it's uncomfortable given like my past personal relationships, but we need to combat. I think some of this is dangerous. I really do think that normalizing Trump and MAGA and perpetuating right-wing narratives such as that Colorado story about Venezuelan migrants, which ended up being, lying. What do you know, as we indicated when we covered it, a slumlord basically who had previously had a bunch of complaints from the city of Aurora, who was trying to get out of doing repairs on and
by the way, I just want to say, not that I at all criticize the coverage of the majority report. I think they do a great job debunking a lot of right-wing bullshit. But as I've said on the show before, and this is more in response to that, you know, IM question or whatever, I think it's even more important to debunk the bullshit of people like Cenk and Anna who are now spreading right-wing propaganda and pandering to the right wing. Why? Because they're doing it under the label of progressivism. They still sell progressive branded merch in their website. They still call themselves the home of progressives. They still say that they're the real left, yada, yada, yada. So yeah, it's kind of important. It kind of puts us other progressives in a situation where we feel like we have to push back and correct the record because we're like, hey, you're calling yourselves the home of progressives, but we're the actual progressives, and we did not consent to this branding pivot. Can we talk about this? No one agreed. So that's why it's important. And as they say, they already barely talk about it.
Yeah. One of the reasons Gavin and I have decided to do the show that we do, one, we like talking about this stuff. We like talking with you guys. We don't think we're above it, which everybody else in our space seems to. But we saw that there was a huge need for a media critic who was a deep progressive that was going to keep an eye on the progressive media space because of a couple of things. It's not just, oh, this person doesn't take corporate cash, they're going to be authentic. No, audience capture is real. Building an echo chamber, understanding that if you take a hard position, you may face financial repercussions in the way you would have if you took that same position and you had corporate ad dollars behind you, right? We were like, damn, this is a really nuanced situation, and we haven't had people who grew up consuming this media developing their own taste and also their own standards for what is ethical. Well, we're going to take that role on, right? So I am perfectly happy to respect that Sam and Emma and Matt, because of their position, because of the way that they do their show, they're going to wait until somebody asks them about it to get into the mud themselves. But one of the things that I do think is, not to pat ourselves on the back, other people should be doing this more, right? And we've talked about it. I don't want to say are directly responsible, but we took a lot of shit for a long time, guys, and we don't care anymore. Like, we'll lean into Beavis and Butthead of the left. We'll lean into Silly and Billy. We don't care. We are not like PMCs. We're just regular guys. Like, you can't hurt us with a little bit of mild name calling. Like, that's just funny stuff. But the reality is we're really good at this, and we called this 3 years ago. We've documented the entire timeline, and it's not really on shows like The Majority Report to be doing it. If you care about this, if you want to see the Young Turks be brought down, you need to subscribe to our show, because that's what we're doing here. If you want to know about what's happening in South Korea and hear from an expert and have a thorough conversation with somebody about whatever, X, Y, and Z, a doctor, a lawyer, somebody else, yeah, you might have better luck at The Majority Report. But if you want to understand the current media landscape, if you want to hear from people who have documented this every single day for 5 years now, yeah, then you need to subscribe to the Vanguard. So that would be my only response to you, Gavin, is that I see that there's a lane for The Majority Report to do it. They don't feel like it's their show, and I think that's a blessing for us because it's our show.
Yeah, 100%. And I think a big part of the reason why people enjoy our show so much is not just because like we were right about this, we called it before anyone else was bold enough to say it was happening. And after watching this exact same grift occur over and over again, from Dave Rubin to Jimmy Dore to everyone else we've talked about, right? People are sick of it. And they love our show and they love our coverage because it feels like for the first time, people like Anna Kasparian have to face some sort of consequence for doing this. You know what I'm saying? No, you can't just get away with it. You can't just leave the left without getting, at the very least, publicly humiliated for it. And that's at least in small part the role that we're trying to play here. No, you're not going to get away with this. You're not going to get away with it with your reputation intact. We're going to call it out. We're going to expose you. And yes, we're going to fucking crucify you and the Young Turks for betraying not just us, but the entire left and all the progressives that you scammed for years and years out of their hard-earned donation money. Again, as Ben Dixon said, in hopes of building something, a real progressive media institution that could exist at a crucial moment like the one we're in right now to resist the establishment, to resist fascism, to resist Christian nationalism, and all of these things that for years and years Cenk and Anna pretended to be against. So yeah, we're not journalists, but at least people can watch the show and feel like, yeah, someone is being honest about this. We're not being gaslit by everyone. And I'm proud to say that we've led the charge on that.
Those buildings that were going into disrepair. And so, of course, he found a scapegoat, as did a lot of groups, corporations like Target or, Walgreens and things like that, that said it was shoplifting based on like their poor business decisions to put a store in a certain place. If you're having a left-wing perspective on any of those things with corporate power, you would basically be a lot more skeptical of claims made by corporate landlords and by corporations about crime. But instead, it's framed as a way to criticize online leftists as if that is the priority here. Like, as I said when we first were asked about this is a question of priorities. What you cover is just as important as what you say when you cover it. And when you choose to cover a story like that, even if in the best of circumstances you're saying, well, there's both sides to this, you are highlighting a story that from its outset was framed from a right-wing perspective. And then if you
it's don't completely used by Trump as an avatar for a problem that is also, I think, false.
And if you have media literacy about this, you can be like, okay. So this store is claiming that all the shoplifting and crime is stealing their profits. Like, who is the one making that claim? I may not cover this because there isn't any corroborating evidence outside of, I don't know, the PR firm that works for X company that's making this case to the press, to the business press in particular. Because maybe if you wait a month or two, it's going to show that actually crime is down. And you know what happened?
It already has shown that.
And it's not just that story. That story was just one of a pattern of like, also, I think it was Cenk that said, apparently in New York, we just let people punch cops. And remember that story?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
the cop was the one who grabbed that guy. I remember that story. That was, I mean, look,
I'll tell you about another story. They did a story about how this guy was out of jail and he'd already been convicted and then he went and killed somebody. Oh my goodness. Meanwhile, they never ever take 1 second and think, wait, if the guy'd been convicted and he wasn't in jail and he wasn't out on bail, then what's going on? Oh yeah, the cops just absconded from their duty. They never went and picked this guy up because they're lazy sacks of dog shit. Okay. And so, yeah, he was out. He knew he was going to have to do a bunch of time. He's like, fuck it, I don't care anymore, because those miserable sacks of shit don't think anything through in the Justice Department.
Understand that the way that the right has operated for decades is they will take an isolated event and create a narrative around it that is helpful to them. And my best example of this is, the war on Christmas. I debated some guy on CNN years ago who was like, in Wisconsin, there's a school that took out Jesus from Silent Night. And this is part of the war on Christmas. And it turned out they had done that years and years ago because they wanted to be able to sing the song and not have it be so religious in this public school. But even if it was as nefarious as this guy let it out to be, it doesn't mean there's a war on Christmas. Christmas exists. It is not going away.
I'm talking about you.
He's talking about how it reminds him of when he was on CNN. They used to talk about the war on Christmas, and it's not going away. But yeah, we can keep playing it.
No one's waging a war on it.
There's no suicide bombings.
They build this narrative around that. And I'm sorry, no one with half a brain is looking at this and not knowing what's going on with that. And so, look, I've already said, don't be I-amming with this. I don't know if you did that on purpose to get us to talk about it.
Psychology.
But I don't really care in the sense of like, we'll let it lie, but it's a bummer, but at the same time, I think I would like to just reiterate, it's not something that necessarily I want to be talking about because it's sad, honestly, but it also is, I think, an example of like, the personal relationship aspect of this for me is obviously secondary. I have plenty of that in my personal life. Any personal relationship I have in this business is based off of shared values. And when those values are not shared, and I think that commentary or journalistic business practices are going in a right-wing direction, or are not telling the truth to their audience, or are doing something in a way that I don't agree with, that's going to be what I call out. So
it's because it's to our credibility and to not place personal relationships over things like principles.
And that's the thing that I really didn't like about what I heard when Cenk called Sam a grifter is the idea
a low rent grifter.
We should have blind loyalty based on past personal relationships. If I would be thrilled to have blind loyalty if the coverage was still something that I could get behind. But based on what I've seen, and it hasn't just been this, it's been a long trajectory of continued right-wing shift, and whatever you want to call it, populism, etc. That is why we're choosing basically to speak on it, and because we've basically been forced to because Sam was attacked on a personal manner.
Well, I don't give a shit about that.
But I care. Honestly, I care about it. Because I do understand the sincerity of what
he's off my Christmas list, though.
Well, whatever.
Christmas
well,
list.
I mean, I know the reality.
Can you pause?
Okay, Kowalski from Nebraska, a friend of mine.
That's the end of it. And one thing I just wanted to add was I love how Sam is one of the only adults in the room when it comes to this kind of thing. He's not an egotist. That's the one thing I feel like you have to really give Sam Seder, even if you hate his guts, even if you're a total Republican and you think everything that he says is swill and you hate the Majority Report because you deeply believe in libertarian politics, okay? And he's mean to your friends. You have to be like, at least the guy isn't a narcissist. At least he's not a loon. He's like, you can attack me, I don't care. This isn't about who I'm friends with, right? And to Emma's point, it's never been that way for us either. Gavin's the only real friend I mean, Griffin's my boy, but other than that, those are the only real friends that we've made in this industry. Everybody else are people that like I'm friendly with, people that I feel like I kind of know, but the only people who I'd be like, yeah, you can sleep on my couch, like, I do a show with. Like, that's the only people I have like real relationships with, like that, like tangible relationships. Those are the people who, if I got really pissed off at, I would just call on the phone and I would be like, are you serious, dude? That's your take on this? Like, are you nuts? Like, you hate immigrants now and you want to see mass deportation? Like, that would be crazy. We would talk off the phone about that, right? Because that would be my sincere friend. I would be like, this is crazy. Like, explain to me how you got there. Because like, I know you're a good person, all this stuff. Everybody else, this is like colleagues, right? It's like, yeah, dude, okay, if I got traded from the Yankees to the Mets, I'm going to talk shit on, the other team, right? The other franchise. Like if I'm, if my brother had grown up and played for the Dallas Cowboys, I probably would have stopped cheering for the Chiefs. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know.
And Anna fires back here on Twitter, not necessarily specifically in response to this segment that we just reacted to, but I guess this is from another Majority Report segment. I'm not sure when it was, but she says, "This is hilarious. I'm not a transphobe, and Jesse Singal is awesome. Journalists should be allowed to do journalism, which sometimes includes reporting that reveals inconvenient truths for propagandists." And then she links here to this clip, which we can play real quick for you guys.
Anna has also been spreading transphobic bile for the past year, which led to a trans crew member quitting. I don't care how she frames it. You cannot praise Jesse Signal and claim you're not transphobic.
I mean, that is a huge, I think, bad influence on her.
Theo,
yeah, not only is
Anna
it a
has
bad
also been
influence, but it's like, might as well parade out Matt Walsh. It's like, well, he's not exact. No, dude, Matt Walsh.
She did. Remember, she said I loved his documentary.
Oh, true.
On Julian Michaels.
You can't even parody it anymore, dude. I can't even make jokes because I'll try and think of something ridiculous, and then Gavin will be like, "Bro, that happened. That was real life." I'm like, "Fuck."
Yep. On the Jillian Michaels interview, she started off with, "Yeah, I really liked Matt Walsh's new documentary. Am I a racist? It really, raised some thought-provoking points." Anyway, deeply, deeply idiotic. But yeah, I mean. Can we put this back up one more time real quick? Because there's a response too. Sorry.
Oh, no,
if you scroll down, someone says, "Anna, about 90% of your tweets are criticizing your own side." To which she says, "Keep it up and I'll bump it to 100. Wow. So edgy. Not even denying what you're doing, just leaning into it at this point.
Bro,
Aren't
I thought
cool? Like, no, you're not. You suck."
That's what all of her friends have criticized us for the last 4 years. They're like, "You only criticize the same side as you. Yo, you TMZ guard, you drama guard, you gossip guard."
She doesn't actually care about hashing out any of these disagreements or coming to some understanding with any of her former left-wing friends or colleagues. No, she just wants them to agree with her, show her loyalty, and abstain from criticizing her publicly, even when she has over and over and over again said things which absolutely are worthy of criticism, just like we would criticize any other public figure or political commentator. But yeah, I mean, it's completely ridiculous. This whole Jesse Singal thing is hilarious. Anna is 100% obsessed with Jesse Singal and his stupid co-host. He went on their podcast, blocked and reported. And I've said it before, but Jesse Singal, he's one of these guys where it's like, I don't think every single person that reads Jesse Singal is a bigot. In the same way that like Sam Harris probably has some fans that are just normal people. But everyone that is a bigot will cite Jesse Singal, just like how everyone that is a racist would cite Sam Harris, back in the day when it was really popular to do the whole like IQ bell curve kind of shit. That's the role that Jesse plays in this whole transphobic media scene, right? He gets cited as the intellectual by all of these bigots to justify their bigotry and to say, "See, look, we have a smart person who agrees with us and who wrote an article for the Atlantic or whatever." That's the point. They don't actually give a shit.
That is such a great comparison between Sam Harris and Jesse Singal, or however the fuck you pronounce his name. Anyway, yeah. Speaking of which, if anybody wants to watch Sam Harris get absolutely humiliated by the most milquetoast establishment lib of all time, Ezra Klein, he wipes the floor with him when they have to talk about the bell curve, because Sam Harris went on a real racist rabbit hole. Like, if you guys don't know, and you are like, "Oh, wasn't he the anti-God guy that Joe Rogan had a fling with?" Yes. And then he went full-on white supremacist Nazi.